In Excel Chapter 2, Part 2, we're going to talk about the difference in relative referencing versus absolute referencing. When you reference a cell, let's say we want to use this cost information somewhere else. You can say equals and click on that cell. And it will put that information in here, the 3.75. And then you could use it somewhere else if you wanted to. But that in itself is a reference. You can do the same thing with a number. So you'll notice here that it just copies whatever's in that cell. If this cell changes, this reference cell will also change. When you want to display the same information multiple places, that's the way to do it, is just a basic reference. This is a relative reference. So if, for example, I took this information and I used my fill handle to copy the formula down one, instead of looking to cell A4, it's going to look to cell A5. So when I copy that down, you'll notice it doesn't read this number anymore. It reads the A5 information. And that's because I moved it down a cell, so it moves my reference down a cell. If I were to put some information here, if I was to copy this equation to the right, it's not going to look to this cell anymore. It's going to look to the right one cell. So if I copy to the right using the fill handle, again, it copies what's in B4 instead of A4 because that's a relative reference. What if, though, you always want to use this number? Maybe you have an area of a cross-section that you're referencing, and you want to use that area in multiple places. Like maybe we're calculating volumes and we have an area and we have a height, and we're going to do different heights. So for a height of 1 versus 2, we'll do different heights here. Use our fill handle. You'll notice how it's going to fill varying heights in. Over here, we'll calculate a volume based on the different heights. Well, we know that the formula for volume would be area times height. So we could say equals area times, which again is the star, the height. For this height, we get a volume of 5.67. If we copy this formula down one, though, we're going to get a relative reference that doesn't copy the 5.67 anymore. It's going to move both of these two references down one. And that's not what we want. No matter which height we use, we always want to go back to the area button. So that's no good. What we want to do is the symbol to make an absolute reference is the $sign. So in this equation, we want the blue cell, the 5.67. If you put your cursor in it and you hit F4, you'll notice that $signs appear. And that means that it's locking down column B and row 16. So that if we copy this formula now, you'll notice that we get B16 every time, and then the other reference moves down one. That's what we want to happen. So we know that that formula is good now. We can actually take it and copy it all the way down. On these $signs, if the B has the $sign, that means that no matter where you copy this information, it's always going to go back to column B. And because the $sign is also by the 16, it means that no matter where you copy it, it will always go to row 16. You can just as easily hit F4 again, and you'll notice that the $sign by the B goes away. If you hit F4 again, you'll notice that the $sign goes to the B but not the 16. If you hit it again, it goes away completely. So F4 toggles where those $signs are located, and the $signs tell you which one of the references is going to stick, whether it's the row or the column. So that's the difference between a relative and an absolute reference. The last little bit of information in Chapter 2, Part 2 is you can actually give information a name. Let's say that you do the same calculation over and over and over again, maybe a unit conversion. Let's say this volume is in cubic feet and we want to change it to cubic inches. Well, we know that there are 1,728 cubic inches in 1 cubic foot. That would be 12 times 12 times 12. let's say we want to give this number the name feet inches, FTIN. And that would be like a shortcut. Anytime you type FTIN, it treats it as the number 1728. So we're going to give this cell a name, and we're going to give it the name FTIN, and then we can use that instead of the number. We're basically naming this cell and making it an absolute reference. We're making this name an absolute reference back to this cell. So whenever you name a cell or a range, then you need to name it with a letter, an underscore, or a backslash, and the range name cannot contain spaces or special characters or cell references. So how we're going to create this name is we're going to go to Formula. We're going to define a name. And the name is going to be FTIN. And it's going to refer to this cell. So you'll notice anytime you click these, that's just a shortcut to get you back to your spreadsheet. Like if I wanted that to be the reference, I could just as easily click there. But we're just going to do the 1728. That's the cell we want to reference. So we're going to say, and that applies to the whole workbook, you'll notice. Say OK. So if down here we say equals this times FTIN and enter, it automatically does the same thing as if we would say equals this times this. And that works just like anything else as an absolute reference. So it's just a way of putting a name on a cell or a whole range of cells.